Cable Bahamas has always been considered the innovator.
People can have confidence in Cable Bahamas as a mobile operator because of our past history. We've proven to the Bahamian community that we are in fact able to manage additional services as a telecommunications company.
Customers expect the best from Cable Bahamas.
The technology that we bring is revolutionary technology because we know that the Bahamian public, they deserve it, and Cable Bahamas is here to bring it to them.
We are ready. Turn us on.
Conflict of interest allegations surrounding the opposition leader continue. The PLP's chairman sounds off. This as Fort Charlotte MP Dr. Andre Rollins dismisses those allegations as a distraction. The labor minister hits back at F&M criticisms over the latest unemployment figures. And a 32-year-old man appears in court charged with murder. We've got those stories and more coming up tonight. I'm Dana Smith, and NB12 starts right now. Topping news tonight, while Free National Movement leader Dr. Hubert Minnis has consistently denied that he was involved in a conflict of interest while he was Minister of Health, Progressive Liberal Party Chairman Bradley Roberts says files in his possession say otherwise, and he plans to release them at the appropriate time. Mounting concerns over the opposition leader's conflict come 1 week after Minnis called on the Attorney General to resign for an overt conflict of interest regarding Baha Mar. Vanik Toot reports.
PLP Chairman Bradley Roberts has threatened to release documents which he says prove opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis was embroiled in a conflict of interest while he served as Minister of Health under the previous administration. This after the Nassau Guardian revealed today that the Public Hospitals Authority signed a 2-year lease with a company which named Minnis as president, and that checks were issued to that company to use its StatCare building while Minnis sat in cabinet.
I have all the documents now in my possession, so at the appropriate time I will be dealing with that further. Oh, he called me out, he asked me to, so I intend to do so. Oh, yeah.
Leach's Investment, which listed Minnis as its president, signed a 2-year lease with PHA to rent its StatCare building. Minnis has insisted the deal was signed in 2005 under the PLP government, adding the record would reflect that he entered government in 2007. However, two $7,500 checks issued to the company were dated June 6, 2007 and May 3, 2011, when the F&M was in power and Minnis was health minister. Roberts said while the lease was not renewed after it expired in May 2011, there continued to be a month-to-month arrangement to rent the building.
Dr. Minnis, when he was minister, the lease that was signed prior to him becoming a minister remained unrenewed, and the payments continued during his entire tenure as Minister of Health. And the company that he is beneficially owned continued to receive the payment without any disclosure to his colleagues as to his interest in that contract.
The total rent for the period of that lease was $180,000. The building was used as a neurodevelopment medical clinic.
By the way, you know, Minnis is a well-heeled man, you know, poor guy. Oh, yeah. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for all Bahamians who fall in that category.
Allegations of a conflict of interest during Minnis' time as health minister arose after the opposition leader accused Attorney General Alison Maynard Gibson of an overt conflict of interest regarding Baha Mar. However, Roberts says Minnis is being hypocritical.
I always use the expression, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. He who comes to equity must come with clean hands.
Roberts also responded to Minnis' assertion that he is a relic of the past.
He called me a dinosaur, and et cetera, and so forth. Dinosaurs are very precious animals, and I think very much revered. And I'm delighted that he called me one of those. I feel elevated to being called a dinosaur. but one that can still bite at his posterior.
While PHA files show that the month-to-month arrangement with Leisha's investments continues up to today, Robert says he understands that will soon end. We understand the services at StatCare will soon be relocated to the new critical care block and another PHA facility. Minnis has said he refuses to listen to small-minded, backward-thinking politicians who are trying to deflect from the real issue. He also accused Roberts of trying to malign his character. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonik Tood.
Meanwhile, Fort Charlotte MP Dr. Andre Rollins believes the PLP is only using the opposition leader's involvement in StatCare's rental as a deflection from the real conflict of interest, which Rollins says is on the part of the Attorney General. Kyle Joaquin has that angle.
On March 8, 2013, Rollins told the House of Assembly of Minnis' involvement in the StatCare rental, and now that the matter has been brought up once again, he's urging Minnis to deal with it once and for all. However, now that PLP Chairman Bradley Roberts has chimed in, Rollins says he believes the governing party is only using this as a method to deflect attention from the person who may have the biggest conflict of interest in the Baha Mar negotiations, the Attorney General. Rollins said when he first brought the matter to light in 2013, he had gotten it from another member of the governing Progressive Liberal Party who encouraged him to speak on it. But when he brought it up in Parliament, he said that person apparently decided not to support him. 2 years later, Rollins says the same claim pops up again, and the timing, he said, couldn't be better for the government.
It's clear to me that the reason they bring it up now is to serve as a distraction from the government's challenges at the moment with the apparent conflicts of interest with members of the cabinet.
Maynard Gibson has already admitted that her husband and 2 daughters have an interest in Baha Mar through their store and that they're losing money as the Baha Mar dispute drags on. But she insists it's not a conflict of interest, insisting the Prime Minister knew of this before she traveled to China as the government's lead negotiator. But Rollins believes that excuse wasn't good enough.
If she were thinking about the public's interest, even if the Prime Minister said he had no difficulty with her going to China, she should have been adamant that she would not go because in her view, according to her principles, it was not a good look and it was not good for the country or the government that she served for her to go. And I'm sure the Prime Minister would not have refused.
Rollins didn't quite say the AG should resign, but he said it's up to the Prime Minister to determine if she served her country well in that capacity. Rollins referenced the Rubis matter where the government, on the advice of the Attorney General, withheld the findings of that report for over a year. He said from where he stands, there are too many examples of where the Attorney General may have acted in the best interest of herself and the government and not the Bahamian people.
She's come across as very partisan, and her modus operandi is that she will defend the government's interests at all costs, even when those interests are adverse to the public's interest.
But Rollins wasn't done there. He also had something to say about the perception of corruption in the government. In the Nassau Guardian's National Review, State Minister for Legal Affairs Damian Gomez spoke of his concern that the government is ignoring the perception that there is corruption. Rollins said he's known Gomez to be an upstanding man and attorney for quite some time. He says if corruption in the government has become a major concern of his, he recommends he resign from cabinet.
If he can't translate his presence at that table to an outcome that would eliminate those questions, then there's no real purpose or need for him to be around that cabinet table. And I think that at some juncture, maybe this is a preemptive strike, so to speak. Maybe he intends to leave the cabinet, and this is a mere justification or his way of providing an explanation before he, in fact, tenders his resignation. But if I had to take a guess, I would expect that by this time next week, he's probably going to be a former cabinet minister.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Meantime, leader of the Democratic National Alliance, Granville McCartney, today blasted Prime Minister Perry Christie for his deafening silence on conflict of interest allegations concerning the Attorney General. Simone Davis reports.
McCartney said the government has been everything but honest with the Bahamian people when it comes to what is truly going on with Baha Mar, asserting that Prime Minister Perry Christie has been far too quiet during the public spat over conflict of interest claims. He suggested that the only reason Christie would be so quiet is because he doesn't know what to do.
There's something amiss. The government, in my view, has not been totally honest with this country in terms of Baha Mar. The Prime Minister needs to come clean with the Bahamian people. And I ask that question again, whether or not he, directly or indirectly, would have family members who are involved in the Bahama project, whether by way of getting substantial contracts, getting leases, or otherwise. Because if that is the case, we have a severe problem.
The Prime Minister refused to respond to questions regarding Bahama last week. When asked his thoughts on Maynard Gibson and Dr. Minnis' public back and forth over conflict of interest concerns, McCartney said the Attorney General and opposition leader appear to be two sides of the same coin.
Two sides of the same coin. That's the answer to that. They all the same. All the same. You know, just one party is better at covering it up than the other. That's the bottom line. They're two sides of the same coin. We need a whole new paradigm shift in this country in terms of leadership. We need leaders who are going to go in there for the benefit of the country, to move this country forward.
McCartney also commended Minister of State for Legal Affairs Damian Gomez for his boldness in speaking out against wrongdoing in the government and standing up for the Bahamian people. Gomez expressed his disappointment in the government, stating that regardless of which government is in power, ordinary Bahamians are the ones suffering. McCartney said the country needs more leaders with that mindset. He added that there are too many issues and not enough resolution.
I congratulate him for taking that step. I congratulate him for standing up, and I congratulate him in directing on how it can be dealt with.
The DNA leader demanded that the Prime Minister either address the issues concerning Bahama or step down as leader of the country. Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
Labor Minister Shane Gibson today hitting back at comments from F&M Deputy Leader Peter Turnquist that the newly released unemployment figures are misleading because they include the temporary jobs created by Junkanoo Carnival. Well, Gibson said he didn't question the figures when the unemployment rate went up, and he's not going to question it now that the rate is down.
I'm not going to question the Department of Statistics. I didn't question them when the rates went up last time. I'm not going to question them now that the rates went down. And I saw the comments from Mr. Peter Turnquist, who gloated when it went up last time and tried to caution the government. And now that it's going down, he's now cautioning and questioning the Department of Statistics. Well, you know, civil servants know their work.
The unemployment rate has dropped from 15.7% to 12%, the lowest it's been in 7 years. The spike in employment this year is largely due to jobs created by Junkanoo Carnival. But those jobs were temporary, leaving the F&M's deputy leader to urge Bahamians not to be misled by the figure and to take it with a grain of salt. Gibson said as far as he knows, the department is using the same method it has always used to calculate unemployment, counting the number of jobs created during a specified time frame, whether those jobs are permanent or not.
These are industry norms. These are things that they use around the world. They have industry standards that they use in determining the employment levels. And for me to question them now, or to question them at any point in time, I think it would be wrong, because they're the ones who've been doing this for years now. They know their jobs, and we can't question them when we don't like the results, and then when we like it, to me, I don't question them at all.
The labor minister said though he welcomes the drop in unemployment, he's not gloating, as he realizes many Bahamians are still struggling and there's more work left to be done.
Whenever we see a reduction, we welcome it. We don't gloat about it simply because at the end of the day, you still have thousands of Bahamians unemployed, unable to provide to their families, unable to buy the very bare necessities that they require to survive. And so while I welcome the results and while I welcome the jobs that we continue to help to create through our programs, I'm very cognizant of the fact that we have to continue to do much more to create much more jobs than we are creating right now.